I bring this meeting of the Crewe Town Council to order. I ask Reverend Scotty Lowe to lead us in prayer.
I'm going to read from Romans 12, verse 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. Let's pray. Well, God, we do thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to look at the best way to govern this town and this area. And so tonight we ask for wisdom and guidance. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll entertain delegations from the public. We have a baseball team, I think it wants to talk.
Hopefully you remember us from our first visit here, but just in case you don't, we're the Maui 15U Babe Ruth All-Star team, and also the junior reigning state champs. My name is Coley Williams. I'm the last former.
Brendan Newmont.
My name is William Drews.
We are here to thank you for your generous donation.
We got something for you all.
This is a picture of us in the regional tournament in Tennessee. So right there.
Y'all credit out these. Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. On behalf of my colleagues, why don't you show them the picture and pass it around?
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Okay, say that again, reigning Virginia State champs, correct?
Yes.
We're proud of you.
That's right, we are.
Tennessee.
We want to thank you all.
Thank you.
We will find a place for this in the town hall, and if folks would, give them a hand for their... Well done, all you gentlemen. You didn't get there by goofing off. You got there by hard work, teamwork. You know, it took a lot of effort on your part, and we're very proud of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other delegations from the public?
Good job, guys.
You all right? Okay.
No, I'll go now.
Mrs. Yates?
I've been driving through town. I'm just wondering about our grass ordinance.
Come out of your yard.
Huh?
Come out of your yard.
These both were taken out of the same yard. This one was 2 weeks ago and this one was today. I stand 60 inches tall. Maybe 59. I would guess say this is at least 48 inches tall. Just wondering.
Is that an abandoned property, or is that?
It is not.
Okay. So it's current?
Well, it is and it isn't. It's a vacant lot.
Next to a building.
So it's not a vacant lot. It's not a house. Residence.
No, but I could give you some of those too. Okay, so,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Then, the other thing I did, and part of this is because I've taken such an interest in the way our town looks. And I'm really trying to make a concerted effort to try to improve the look of our town, okay? And I think that as citizens, we become complacent after a while. We don't even see what is around us until we really take a careful look. And I think, Phil, you've been noted to say that we have I heard the number 10,000 cars going down 460 a day? So I can think of 10,000 good reasons to clean up our town and to really take it seriously. Because not all of those 10,000 cars are coming out of this community. They're coming from surrounding communities and tourists. And I have a whole bunch of pictures here, all of which I'm not going to share with you tonight because I know I'm not going to worry, but I do want to share a couple with you. So I'll pass this.
Are these the ones that you sent to me electronically?
Some. I'm curious as to why this is left, this problem here is untaken care of. Okay, you pass it. Okay. We've got a motorcycle parked on the sidewalk going the long way down the street. And we've got 2 cars parked in front of a white curb, which as I understand is designated for 5-minute parking.
No, it's not.
It's not? That, I went to the police department and that's what I was told.
No.
So I'm
It was
just
yellow,
wondering,
we painted over it because,
pardon?
it was yellow, we painted over it because you can't park in front of a yellow.
So they are allowed to park there?
Yes.
Okay.
That 5 minutes rule was there for, particularly in this particular case, that was a laundromat. I mean, that was a dry cleaner, and that was designed for people to just pull up, get their stuff, and get out.
I've been told that this boat has been parked in the street for going on 5 years, unmoved. Now, I can't verify that.
You have an address?
We can get the address, it's easy enough to do it. Okay. And on the face of 460, this has been sitting there for at least 2 months.
Okay. Where's that at? What street?
The,
Are these our pictures?
these are recent pictures.
Right, but I mean, are you giving them to us?
Yeah, you
Okay,
can.
for the record? Okay.
And then this is probably my biggest concern right here, and I actually would hope to be able to address this at a later meeting. But we have a building on 460. And it's got a broken out window. Everybody will recognize it. And so I took the time to go and take pictures of what's going on inside of the building. And this is what's going on inside the building.
Is it Pollard's Cafe? Okay.
There's been obvious signs of recent activity in that building. And that's really needs to be addressed in our town, because it's those types of buildings. I realize we have a lot of, and I realize as a council, you guys are all addressing some of our building issues. But this particular building is a hazard. I mean, to the point where there's clear indications of possible drug activity going on in there and all sorts of things. And so this is,
When you were in there, did you see?
I didn't go inside, I'm not stupid. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Right, I mean, you didn't see
Just
evidence,
gutsy,
you
huh?
didn't see evidence of a squatter living there. In other words, it's not a homeless person that has just taken root, it's more drug activity, you think? Or it's a-
I would guess that that's hard to know. I think that would be a hard guess. But what I can say is that there's unquestionably activity going on in that building of some sorts. Whether somebody is staying in there, which could well be. There's a mattress in there and chairs and cigarettes and beer
Yes, ma'am.
cans and
Yes,
there we
ma'am.
go.
Well,
So
actually,
I'm addressing it,
That
okay? So,
concerns me more than the other.
well,
Yeah.
that concerns me more than the others. And so I'm just bringing that to your attention tonight because I.
Well, the
think it
question
needs to be
is
addressed.
an environmental hazard, a threat to safety, health, welfare, and the neighbors?
That building is.
I think so, yes. And just looking at the pictures, and if you will give us some time, we'll give this to the town manager, I'll give it to the town
Well,
manager, and we'll,
I've been out doing a lot of work and a lot of, as you are well
Yes, ma'am.
aware, and I just want the town to be everything it can be. And I know that as a town, we need to pull together. And it's gonna take a lot of changes and a lot of a lot of thought, a lot of planning. It's gonna probably create a lot of turmoil and upset, but, you know, there you go. But this one I didn't want to wait on.
No, ma'am, I understand. I'd like to, now, Mr. Foss has taken over Mr. Fisher's responsibilities, and one of those was to develop a corps, if you will, a cadre of volunteers from Crewe to bring us all under one umbrella, a unified effort where we can coordinate these things together.
I would love
Like
to
we-
join that.
I would like for you to get with Mr. Foss if you can and discuss the way ahead perhaps on how we can make this happen.
And of course, you know, I have other activities going on in the village, you know, that we're
Sure, I
making a
understand.
concerted effort to
I understand.
try to start really seeing some changes around.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to ask the town manager, we have contacted that property owner before.
That building inspector by there did not condemn it.
I'm sorry.
No, it did not.
Okay.
He ought to be fired.
As,
Yeah.
as Tessie will tell you, that's what it depends on.
Can we call a health department and have them inspect it? Do they have an action arm or some kind of a hammer they can use as well?
Not sure, I would think, I know the county will.
I can add that the day I was there, now I didn't go inside, but it reeked of feces and urine.
Well, there we go. Yeah, but that's a health, we got, again, health and
It's a
welfare
health
issue.
and welfare
So it's
issue.
got to be addressed. And what I'd like to do, and we can discuss this tomorrow in greater detail, but we'll call the health department and have them go down there and look at it and see what they can tell us. If the county health department won't help us, we'll call the state and go from there. So we're going to go chain of command. It has to be addressed. Thank
I'm
you.
done.
Any other delegations from the public? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll now go to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. Any item can be removed from the calendar at the request of a member of the council and be voted on separately. You have 2 items on there, the minutes of or 3 items, the minutes of the regular town council meeting held on 8 August, and the call meeting of 1 September, and the bill sheet and additions.
Mayor, did we receive a police department report?
No.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for the consent calendar? We have a motion by Mr. Sisk, second by Mr. Abel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say by like sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the town manager's report.
And hopefully for the last time, I'll say this. The generator finally arrived. This is the replacement generator for our sewer project. The other one was not sufficient to do what needed to be done, so it had to be exchanged. We finally received that. We're in the final stages of the project. The final punch list needs to be addressed, and we will need to release retainage payments, and the project will be concluded. We've also purchased the flow monitors, and they've been installed for several months, but as you all know, we haven't had sufficient rain to really do any good. Hopefully we'll get some rain, and I'm going to talk a lot about water tonight. We're closely monitoring the lake level of Crystal Lake. Right now, the level is at 6.5 inches below the spillway. Generally, we have used 9.5 to 10 inches below to start talking about water restrictions. In the past, we tried volunteer restrictions. That's kind of a joke. Either going to do it or not do it. So hopefully, between now and the next 2 weeks, we estimate we'll get some rain, and we won't have to be talking about that. And I'll just keep everybody informed of our decision. If we do decide to go to restrictions, then we notify the media, we notify everyone in town, the code red system, and explain what we mean by restrictions. And hopefully everyone, first, if we have to, I hope they'll follow them. If not, well, if we get rain, then we won't have to worry about it. this is something that's been on my mind for quite some time, and it deals with the water supply. Right now, it's brought to my attention recently by the plant operator, John Rico, that he has been monitoring and starting to see problems with what he considers to be leaching of septic systems by homeowners in the general area. He went into detail as to how he feels that way. It's a rise in nitrogen and phosphorus levels periodically in the lake that he says can only be coming from that source. It's a manageable situation right now, not having a problem, but we have all heard and seen where there's last I heard, a 17 plot development getting ready to take place down there across from the lake. I think it's time that we start asking some questions about this. And what I mean is possibly contact. I'm going to start with the health department to get some insight on what's involved with, I know a little bit about septic systems, but I don't know if there are any restrictions based on proximity to a water supply. Hopefully there is. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions here, but there may be a different type of drain field that you have to put in around a system like that keeps that sort of thing from happening. I don't know. I think it's time to start asking these questions, and I want council to be aware of it because potentially down the road we could be looking at some sort of legal situation where we have to protect the water supply. It may go well, it may not go well, but the bottom line is, it's our duty to protect the water supply. We have no choice. The health department has always been in your favor to do anything that you can do to protect your water supply, but they will not mandate. It would be a lot easier on us if they would mandate something like DEQ would mandate, but they won't do that. So I plan to talk to them as well about the situation. And probably at some point we may need to hire somebody to come in and look at these potential leaching septic systems that are down there now that have been there for a long time. The obvious reason, it's obvious why we have to do this. So I wanted to start talking about it and get it out so that we can maybe get ahead of it. It's nothing critical at this point. It's not causing a problem. But they were to develop 17 properties down there, and maybe that's a stretch. That's 17 additional septic systems, as well as any kind of runoff. They got to dig wells. What kind of effect does it have on the water supply? I know we're fed by Lazarette Creek, but I think we probably do get some groundwater as well. So it's something to think about. So with y'all's permission, I'll start with questions and keep you up to date.
Do we need a motion?
I just want to make you aware of it.
I would like to also, since there is the potential for development, and I know it's a question that we've had in the past, looking at motorized watercraft on the, because again, my concern is for the water supply for our town and not the recreation of people outside of town. So I don't know if there's any restrictions or any potential negative impact of motors on the water, but if we can look into that as well as part of the
We can.
question.
We have in the past, but and that is precisely one of the things that the health department encourage you to take care of if they won't mandate.
Right.
And my research has found that you've got current landowners down there, they're gonna fight you, for all it's worth. But the bottom line is you have to take care of your water supply.
Absolutely, and that's our only water supply, and we do have the ability to regulate our water supply in that way.
It gets a little hairy.
Yeah,
We have water rights, but the way it was always explained to me is the property owners own the land to Lazarus Creek, which is running through the middle of Crystal Lake. That's just the way it was explained to me, I don't know.
Did you have an opportunity to look at that reservoir concept for the airport?
I do need to get with you. I've approached Department of Aviation. We need to meet with them.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't mean to stir everybody up, but I just want everybody to know, thank you.
No, I appreciate you bringing it to council's
It's been
attention.
on my mind for quite a while. When that property was sold, we were kind of hoping that a certain entity was going to buy that property more or less for protection for property that they currently own. It didn't happen that way. And we've got a developer in there that my understanding is doesn't live here.
Okay.
So it gets to, that situation where we need to take care of what we have to. Just some quick things to let everybody know. We've been doing a lot of asphalt work in town. I know streets are always a problem in the town, and most of you know that VDOT has done some slurry or some painting of the roads, I call it. It's better than nothing, I guess, but we've been doing a lot of asphalt work, particularly up there on West Carolina Avenue in that area. We still have had no word back on the theater building. Tessie's waiting on IRS, and we are waiting on Cambridge Construction, who agreed to come in and give us an estimate on shoring it up, but they have not done so. We have completed and cleared and cleaned the lot at 305 East Carolina. We received an additional $3,011, you saw probably on your bill sheet, $3,011.43 in billings from the county for debris. It brings a total of $15,011.43. We hope that in the future we'll be able to sell that property or get some kind of control like we're trying to do with the Bealer property and recoup some cost involved. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Pass that over to Mr. Gunn, he might want a copy of it. Give it to Mr. Gunn, so he's got a copy of it. Town attorney.
yes, thank you. One of the main things that I worked on at the beginning of, since I've last talked to you all, was finishing up the legal part of what we need to do on the Lipscomb Stratton project. And I'm pleased to report that everything legally was done on time. We were able to, as far as I know, I haven't heard anything different, get the grant money, everything's moving along, so that's great news. So what we have to do now from a legal standpoint is, once the construction of the road is done, then that is when the actual litigation or lack thereof would take place in court. And so right now, for my purposes, everything is done legally up till this point. And what I mean by that is, there were several easements that we had talked about, and, fee simple dedications too, that were necessary to improve the road and the drainage that the landowners would not voluntarily convey. And so the town, using its eminent domain power, had to take or condemn that property and pay the proceeds in the clerk's office. So, the other thing I wanted to address with you all is that regarding the grass ordinance, that's something that came up last time. And the question was, can the town have a $1,000 surcharge? My answer is, I don't think the town can have that sort of surcharge if it's not actually indicative of the actual work that's performed on the property. But the town can have a lien for the cost it spends on the property, but also the town has some other remedies as well. And the reason why I'm on my phone now is because I have our ordinance up on my phone, so I'm not just looking at my phone. So, yes. What it says in here is, in addition to the liens that we have discussed several times, and what that means is, if the town cuts the grass on the property and incurs costs, then it has a lien against the property for the amount it incurs. But also, in addition, our ordinance offers some other options as well, such as civil penalties of $50 for the first violation, and then every day that that violation occurs is a separate, every business day that that violation occurs is a separate civil penalty. And so we can take the landowners to court for that. It just, the only limit on it is it can't exceed $3,000.
Can we increase the civil penalty, or is that a state civil penalty?
It is a state civil penalty, but I can double check the limits on that.
Sure.
But the state does set it, but I'm pretty sure that when we revised the code a few years ago, that it was up to code, but let me make sure that nothing's changed on that. And then in addition, if the owner has a separate yard that is also an issue after they've gotten in trouble for this first yard, then that's a $200 civil penalty. And then in addition, if you have 3 different occurrences of civil penalties in 24 months, then the town can actually charge the person, the violator, with a class 3 misdemeanor. So there are other things that can be done besides just the lien. And the good thing about the civil penalties versus the lien, a lot of times the issue becomes is that the grass is, tall on the vacant property, and then people don't really care about the property anyways, so they're like, I really don't care about a lien on it, or they already have unpaid taxes, so what's the big deal? But if we chose the route of the civil penalties, we took them to court, we got a judgment, that judgment can go against any property they own anywhere. So, and chances, as long as we know where the property is. And chances are, and this is just wishful thinking, but if they, have enough money to own property here, then perhaps they own a house somewhere, or, that they actually do keep up. So, that's a thought on that. Those were my 2 big things I wanted to bring up. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I wanted to welcome our new council member. I do think that we need to do, and I'll double check on this, I believe last time when we had a vacancy though, we did have to do a petition to circuit court. Just, it's routine that, it's not an issue. But just to have the judge approve Mr. Foss to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Fisher. So with town council's approval, if that's what we need to do, I'll go ahead and do that, get it done. Nobody has to come to court or anything,
I like court.
You went for sworn in, weren't you?
Yes, I was. That's
But I
right.
didn't tell him
I
that.
believe it's in our charter also that we, our process for filling vacancies.
Okay, well, I hope we don't, but I can't check my internet in here to see what we have to do because I don't get good internet. So I would check on that though and be sure.
Mayor, I did have a quick question for the town attorney on the subject of the grass ordinances, and it's a suggestion I brought to your attention. It seems to me that a surcharge could be partially effective, but something a little bit more effective than going straight for the wallet would be something similar to what the county treasurer does with delinquent taxes. And the county treasurer once a year publishes a list of delinquent taxes in the local paper, and that has a pretty high success rate of collecting taxes. If we were to once a month publish the names, addresses of the property owners in town who are violating the, I figured you'd deal with me, who are violating the grass ordinance, that might have a little bit more impact on.
Public shaming always works.
That's absolutely.
All right, let us take that under advisement and look at it and maybe do a cost assessment as well.
And well, my assumption would be the cost of advertisement, similar to the county treasurer, would be rolled into the total cost owed to the town.
Sure.
Yeah.
You okay, Jesse?
I'm okay. No, I'm fine. I was wondering how I stayed up so high for so long.
Thank you, Councilman Miskovic. I like the idea. Any other questions for the town attorney? Very well, we're going to the mayor's report. First thing, we want to welcome new Councilman Bill Foss to the dais up here and on the shooting gallery. We look forward to working with you. And most of these folks know you better than I do because I've been out. But I hear great things and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Any comments or anything you want to make?
Not at this moment.
Very good, very good. Second item, Mrs. Hahn, have you got somebody you want to introduce?
Am I what?
Is this the new director?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Can't we have her stand up and introduce
Yes, please.
herself?
I think so.
Please, yeah, so. I don't know how I got into your report. My name's Jackie Zawoleski. I've been the director here for about 6 weeks now, and I've been working on getting out around town and seeing how I can best go about advertising what we're doing here and getting ideas for what we should be doing here. I actually did bring some things with me. Like this weekend, I was at the Blackstone Arts and Crafts Festival and gave up these brochures, but just passed them around. Those went into the bags that the Friends of Blackstone Library were selling. They had bags of books for $5 and we sold 120 or so.
Oh, that's good.
So, and we have newsletters and calendars with this month and next month. So we're busy.
Well, welcome to Ottawa and welcome to the Crewe Public Library. We have
Yes,
an active
yes,
plan
yes.
to do that.
I met with Sally earlier today and we were talking about what we could do like over the next year or so. And I have some questions for you that resulted from that conversation.
You want to ask them now or later?
I'll save them for later.
Okay. Well, we welcome you to Crewe. And are you in the Crewe or Blackstone or?
I'm mostly here, but
Okay.
I spend some time at each of the libraries.
I understand, but are you living in the county?
No, I'm living in Farmville.
Okay, all right. So what brings you, well, the job obviously brings you here.
Yes,
Good deal.
exactly.
Thank you, ma'am.
I guess the better question is, what keeps you there? We've got plenty of places here in Crewe.
I
Great
could not
town.
find a rental in Ottawa in like the short time I have to find something, so I'm there for that.
Good deal. On the mayor's report, most of it's on the report. I've got the personnel committee report I got from the vice mayor, and I'll let her address that during her portion here. Police Department vision statement. Following Mr. Miskovic's questions and requests, we did draft a vision statement for the police department, which was circulated on the 23rd of August. The only respondent from members of council has been Mrs. Stinson, who concurs with it as written. If the rest of you will take a look at it, if you have not already, just send me a note, you concur or you don't concur, and you want to make a change, and we'll move forward from there. On the, let's see, delinquent payments, we've already addressed to some degree with the town attorney, so I'll skip over that. Stratton Street is an update on the grants writer. She will be able to start working for us in October. I have requested each of you to provide some input on what you think you'd like for her to focus on. And I've gotten some feedback from some of you, but not all of you. If you have no feedback, send me an email and say no feedback. Following up on the waiving of the county and tax liens that we talked about so we could start taking down some of these abandoned properties. A draft letter was circulated between the two mayors on the 26th of August. And that week, the county had their Board of Supervisors meeting, and lo and behold, that same topic came up in their discussion And they are also seeking that some accommodation where we would drop our liens, so they too can drop their liens and get rid of these old homes. The town manager has since received a letter that we have looked at, and what we intend to do is follow up with that letter and engage the county and see if we can come up with some kind of a solution that is equitable and meets all of our efforts, our requirements, and our goals, basically. Lottery localities, you can read that on your own, that we have got multiple people on board, jumping on board. Stanton City just looked at it this week, and I have not heard back from them yet. I want to commend Councilman Miskovic, who had the daunting task of briefing the VML Legislative Committee on the 24th of August, and lo and behold, who should be in there but Mrs. Paula Otto, who is the Executive Director of Virginia Lotteries, and of course, who gave a valiant attempt to defend the Virginia Lottery, and I think Mr. Miskovic shot down most of her arguments politely, of course. I had a meeting last week with the Virginia State Parks and their AmeriCorps coordinator. One of the issues that had been brought to my attention, I've been working with the Crewe Ministerial Association. One of the issues that had been brought up is something for youth outside of sports, some other activities. I have engaged AmeriCorps. I am meeting them again on Wednesday in Crewe, this time at 10 o'clock at Town Hall. And what we're going to do is talk about their programs and what they think they can do. If any of you want to be there, please feel free to come in. And it's your call. It's mainly a fact-finding mission at this point, so we can see where we can move forward. Street issues. There was one of the citizens pointed out to me one thing that we probably should look into is putting up a highway sign right at the intersection of Route 360 and 49 with an arrow that points to Crewe and says turn left for food and gas and other things. Go ahead.
You've done that.
Well, we've looked at, right, the tourist TOTS is the acronym. The issue was cost, I believe. This was several years ago. I'll dig back out my paperwork.
What about, yeah, please do, because all I'm asking for is a standard issue now. I'm not looking for one of those big Blackstone type signs. I'm looking for
No.
standard.
It was a lot.
It was
It
a lot,
was-
like
it was a
$3,000.
significant,
From VDOT?
It was.
One time.
Well, it's VDOT contracts out through another group, I believe is. Let me dig around for my.
Send me that data. I'd be
Absolutely.
interested as to what they could say, because all I'm looking for is that little standard issue blue sign that says food that way. Curb and gutter drains. We've had a couple of citizens bring to our attention the problems with curb and gutter drains. It's a VDOT problem. They get trashy. People throw their grass on them. What we have to try to do is encourage people not to put their grass and trash in the street, because that drains it up or clogs it up. But the other element is cleaning, because if it's a VDOT issue, we don't clean them necessarily. It's something we have to look at. The citizen has brought to my attention that in some towns, apparently VDOT will pay the towns to clean the curb and gutter, just like they do, like we do snow removal. And we have to follow up on that, because it might be another source of revenue for us as well, if we can get paid by VDOT to clean out curb and gutters in town. And that puts it on our plate. I had one lady call us about an alley with some large potholes. That was passed to the town manager and the street department for resolution. Another individual asked us about the street over in front of Crewe Village Apartments, and that too was passed to the town manager and the street department for resolution. What else? I have one action item. December 7th is the 75th anniversary of the start of the Second World War. We have approximately 8 World War II veterans still alive. What I wish to do is present each of these World War II veterans a resolution of gratitude and thanks and remembrance for their service and sacrifice 75 years ago in what was the greatest conflagration that our country has seen since the American Civil War. I will probably be able to do what I want to do with donations. I was asking council to consider authorizing up to $200 to cover any shortfalls. My concept is to do the resolution and have a World War II victory medal and then frame it and give it to each of these gentlemen. Further, I'd like to coordinate with one of the larger churches that might be able to accommodate us and see if we can't have a public ceremony on that Wednesday evening, a service of gratitude and remembrance. As you know, we have lost many Crewe boys in that great struggle, and their names are up on that little monument that sits in front of the town hall. I think it's something we need to do for younger generations, if not the older generations. I would, at this time, I would entertain an authorization for $200, should it be needed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Sisk. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Mr. Abel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, by like sign. As there's no opposition, that motion is approved. But again, I don't think I'll need to draw on it. I think I will be able to get the donations that we need to make it happen. That concludes the mayor's report, unless you have any questions. Very good. Committee reports. Infrastructure, Mr. Sisk.
Yes, sir. I talked with Robbie Knight and Tony and TJ and all that about the grass, the $1,000, not surcharge, but the fine when we first cut the grass. We did drop it down to 500 automatically. What we want to do then is add whatever it costs to cut that grass that day. As in one lot might take an hour, so they get an hour charge plus the 500, and another lot might take a day, they can charge 8 hours and the $500 automatic.
Okay.
That's what we want to do, and then we got to put it in testes.
All right. Well,
Okay.
If that's okay with the town.
Yep.
Council. The other thing, the hangars at the airport, we will go up. We haven't completely figured that one out yet. It will be going up, but we gotta look at some other hangars and see if the issue is, if it's worth going up on them.
Okay, so rents will be going up on some of the hangars, probably all of them, at some point. We're just
Majority of them, yes, just at some point, but we're still looking into it, and it's gonna be, some of them will be $100, some of them might be a little less, depends on the size of the building and whatnot. And we're probably gonna do it in 2 settlements. It's not gonna directly go straight, you know, 1 month $50, next month is 100.
Okay.
It's just gonna be increments.
Okay.
And then with the, see if we have an ordinance or anything with the 911 numbers or the addresses on the house being visible. The fire department's still wondering about that. And I want to move on with that. I don't know if we have any kind of ordinance about that, or what do we have to do?
I don't think that, I think it's a county ordinance, there's no town ordinance that I saw. But we can review the town ordinance fairly easily, I would think.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, but there is, it is. So can we go ahead and make a motion to move on to that, or go into ordinance, or get her to look at some different ordinances, we can figure it out? If that's okay?
However you all want to do, it's probably a pretty standard ordinance.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
y'all
I
wanna
don't think it's
make
nothing
a
complicated, just have, you know,
Yeah.
numbers visible and reflective. That's what the fire department wants. Maybe I get somebody from the fire department to come up here and explain it
I
better.
believe the town of Blackstone has an ordinance, we can
Yeah,
just
they,
borrow best practices.
Well, let's check with the town of Blackstone ordinance, and we'll just pull that and look at it, and see if that can meet our needs.
and,
All right, thank you, Mr. Sisk. Finance Committee, Mr. Knight is not present tonight. Ms. Stinson.
Personnel Committee, the town manager and mayor, we've been working hard on staffing our police department. As most of you probably read in the paper, we have appointed Scott Dixon as chief. We have filled one of the vacancies for officer, person Robert Sawyer, and I believe he has started. He'll be riding with another officer until he gets acclimated. We are pending a background investigation. We think we may have an excellent person for the administrative secretary position within the police department. So we are still advertising one vacancy for officer. And so we're making progress.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for all your work in this last month or so. I know it's been a lot on your plate. So. Volunteer Services Committee, Mr. Foss, this is unfair, so we will not.
Just say no report.
Mr. Sisk may have some comment.
I want to talk to we're going to start cleaning up the park and getting ready for the chamber, for the Christmas lights. I was going to speak with the Crewe rec this afternoon, but our meeting's at the same time there, so I won't. And then the Railroad Museum, we will be getting, myself and I hope some other people will be decorating that this year, because Johnny can't climb with a broke leg. So we'll be taking over that, so that'll be working. And then the fire department had a fish dinner Sunday, sold out, all 200 plates.
That's it.
So that was excellent. And that is it, as far as I know.
Okay. Outstanding. How many volunteers do you need to help do the lights?
I have no idea, I haven't even started.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll just put out a call. We can grab
I'll-
folks.
I gotta, it's mainly the hooking the lights up to the box cars and stuff.
Okay.
Somebody that can climb ladders and,
Do we have enough ladders?
oh, we'll have plenty of ladders, I can get the ladders.
All right.
If I might have, if it's all right with the town, I might get some of the guys from the shop. Tony lets me
Yeah.
grab a handful when I'm over there cleaning up and stuff like that.
That would be appropriate.
Speaking of lights for Christmas already, and Councilman Voss may be able to better answer, is the chamber looking at setting up lights yet? Do they need volunteers as well?
I already talked to Wade about that.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Once they receptacles, all the receptacles remember repaired.
That I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was told, that's what Tony was talking about the other day, that he's pretty sure that all the receptacles have been repaired, but he's gonna get up with you and, you know, walk around.
Go back through it again. Just walk through it.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue was with the amount of cords that were attached to each other. It's that the overload may have been with the circuit breaker not being big enough, and that we would not know.
Yeah, that's still an issue.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out
That is an issue,
Okay.
yeah. In particular out there where the trees go, it's too much. We were looking at, Tony was gonna look at the breaker and see if he could put a bigger breaker in there. We don't know what's in it, I think, I don't know.
A lot of them are 20s.
Yeah, he thinks it's 20, maybe you put a 30 and that might take care of it, so. I'm no electrician, but
Okay.
we'll
We did
have
ask Robert Knight.
test it.
Well, whenever he wants to go up there, I'll be available.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah, Robert Knight talked, Wade and I,
Yeah,
everything about
he
it.
informed us.
I felt like summertime.
Okay. Mr. Miskovic, Economic Development.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier, I did reach out to the Department of Aviation. There are specific regulations, but they said it's probably better for us to talk to the specific person assigned to Crewe's airport and to meet with that person directly regarding those issues. So we'll set something up. I took part in the VML Legislative Committee meeting as a committee member in addition to as a presenter. But as one of the discussions was, presentations was by Chantel, which is a, not just a cable company, but they also provide a high-speed internet and things like that. And just started some broad discussions about broadband and high-speed internet for in the area. They're looking to expand their operations, or to emphasize that they are in fact also a broadband company, because most people view them as cable. So they want me to let everyone know that they are in Crewe if anyone needs internet or television with cable capabilities. I also attended one of the Closer to My Grocer Coalition meetings last month. Unfortunately, the Commonwealth is facing a $1.8 billion budget deficit due to spending in revenue concerns. So the chances of that funding being made available this next year are pretty slim, but nevertheless, we're still working towards that. And just to remind everyone, the town supported the grocery investment fund, and actually took a lead role in supporting that. That is it for the things that are ready for prime time. I will yield to my co-chair if he has anything else for economic development.
Not right yet. No, not that.
Perfect,
Very good,
thank you.
thank you. Move on to new business. Any new business?
Mayor, a couple pieces of new business. The next scheduled meeting occurs on Columbus Day. Did we want to keep that on Columbus Day, or it's also the day of one of the nights of the VNL conference?
Move it. Tuesday night, 13th.
How about Monday the 17th, the following week?
Monday, I have to teach on Tuesday, so Monday's good for me. The 17th okay with everyone? October? Right. It's always a good day, because that's the day we beat the British.
No,
That's Monday, that's the following one.
the following Monday, yes, sir.
Or was it the 19th?
Monday the 17th.
No, for us it's Monday the 17th.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That's all right, we don't know.
That's all right.
We would have just nodded and smiled and not known the difference.
My wife gave me a card once that said, it had this guy pointing out to a place and said, look, and then you open it up, it says, there, stick out point. Because it sticks out. I'm full of trivia. All right,
Couple more pieces of new business, Mayor.
fire away.
The sidewalk along 460, I believe, is maintained by VDOT, or supposed to be maintained by VDOT. Is there any possibility we can have VDOT maintain that sidewalk? No? Okay.
But we can write a letter.
Yes.
We can
Okay.
write a letter, and that's the
Okay.
thing. I mean, we can remind them of their duty and their obligations and write the letter. And then when they don't fulfill that obligation, we will give it to Senator Ruff and Senator Wright and say, this is what we think you should do with
Okay.
VDOT's funding. Okay?
I could say something about that. I know several kids around here that probably fill up over 500 bags, big orange trash bags.
Yes.
As community service,
Yes.
and I still have community service workers. And I can work out work from down here if you need.
Okay.
Maybe they need to see how long it takes to fill up that big orange bag.
Can you get with the Chief Dixon and coordinate that and make that happen? Thank you.
Some, a lot of hours, and I don't have that much stuff in Burkeville.
Good
Well,
deal.
that kind of covers my my next point, my next piece of new business. I understand that in the past, we've, way past, we've paid an individual to walk around and pick up trash. And I was wondering if that was a possibility, but I think going the free route, trying the free route might be.
Free ride's always better for the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Any other new business? No further new business. Do we have any continuing business?
Yes, I was wondering if there's been any update on seeking somebody to manage our social media for us.
The job was advertised, but I do not
But there
know,
hasn't been any.
no takers. No. We authorized advertisement.
We authorized that. I don't know if it was.
Don't think it's been done yet.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Then that's an action item that won't take.
We asked for RFP on it.
We do have the RFP.
We have it.
Okay. All right. That's easy enough to do. Do we need, well, we've already approved that, so there's no need
Yeah,
to
we just-
reapprove. Okay, good.
Just for clarification, how do we advertise it? Mobile routes, paper?
Yeah. All right.
We can also throw it up on social media. That might be a good way of going back to.
Any other continuing business? Therefore, we move back to the public comment section. Any further public comment? Rick, did I get you at 8 o'clock? You on time? Okay.
I have just one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, regarding the grass. Is there any way when these fines, penalties, whatever you want to call, whatever they're labeled, can be placed against even credit rating? Can that be put on their credit?
No, ma'am.
It cannot.
Lien is against property.
So it cannot, there's no way that that
No,
can be
ma'am.
done. Just wondering.
Now, that may affect their credit rating, I don't know, but I don't, but the liens are put against property. No further public comment. At this time, I will entertain a motion for executive session.
Mayor, can we have a points of personal privilege?
Yes,
Real quick,
go
I did
ahead.
want to thank Wade and the street department and whoever else was involved in cleaning up the cemetery over at the industrial park. That's a good piece of Nottaway County history, and it's a good thing that it was. Oh, and Councilman
You
Sis.
did it, right?
Do what?
Clean the cemetery over at the industrial park.
No, that was strictly the town.
Okay, strictly
And then I
town,
took
okay.
interest in it afterwards.
All right.
But on behalf of the Nottaway Historical Association, we'd just like to thank the retirement for that.
All right. That was a Robertson family cemetery.
Right. What the original,
Sure.
I got all the way up to 1891 and don't know who owns it after that. I'm stuck. They have the deed office. Anybody wants to help me?
Any other points of personal privilege? Very well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session consistent with Virginia State Code 2.23711, paragraphs 1, personnel, and paragraphs 3 and 5, property and prospective business.
So moved?
Mr. Miskovic makes the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Sis makes the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We adjourn into executive session, and we want to thank you all for coming out tonight. All right, at this time, we've come out of executive session, and I need a vote to certify that we only discuss those issues that are consistent with closed session. Under Virginia State Code 2.23711, paragraphs 1, personnel, and paragraphs 3 and 5, property and prospective business. Mr. Miskovic.
Yes.
Mr. Abel.
Yes.
Mr. Sisk.
Yes.
Mr. Foss.
Yes.
Ms. Stetson.
Yes.
Need a motion to second.
He seconded. He seconded.
Well, that was to come out of closed session.
No, we still need a motion to second.
Motion, sir. I'm sorry. I move that we certify pursuant to 2.2-711A.
And I heard the votes.
Okay, all right, perfect. Very good. One other thing.
2 minutes?
Yeah, one other thing we should talk about, never mind. All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to provide Ronnie Height with a bonus of $500 in recognition of his work and as a token of thank you for his work during our recent police shortage, going above and beyond call of duty, working 24/7 or being on call 24/7 during this period. I get a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Miskovic, second. Mr. Abel, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, motion carries. That is it. Okay. With that in mind, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Mr. Abel.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sisk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.